Hello, listeners. This is Kat. Welcome back to Put Your Hands Up Podfics. This will be the continuation of Deku D.O. This will be Part 9, Chapter 10, entitled Point Break. Izuku had no idea why Izawa-sensei hadn't expelled him yet, or even confronted him. But he wasn't about to look a gift horse in the mouth. It was the morning of both exams. If Izuku could just pass his preliminary medical licensing exam, maybe he'd be able to stay in UA. Izuku shivered slightly in the early morning breeze, yellow backpack slung over his back, and a case with his hero costume in his left hand. Good, you're on time. Izuku spun around to face Recovery Girl. Chio-sensei, he bowed lowly. Thank you very much for volunteering to drive me to the test site early. It's my pleasure, dearie, Recovery Girl smiled. Do you have your schedule? Yeah, my medical exam starts at 6, and my hero exam starts at 9:30. I should have half an hour between them, and I brought snacks. That's good. It's important to keep your energy up during long tests, and these couldn't hurt either. Recovery Girl passed Izuku a small pouch of her signature gummies with a wink. Thank you. Izuku gratefully accepted the candies and stuffed them into his backpack. Now, we should be on our way. We wouldn't want you to be late. My car's parked in the faculty garage across the street. Recovery Girl started walking. Right. Izuku rushed to catch up with her. Speaking of, has Izawa-sensei said anything about expelling me? Why ever would he? Because he found out I've been illegally moonlighting at a clinic where I treat villains? Did he? What? Did he find out? Yeah. I was his doctor, remember? But does he? What do you mean? Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't he drugged to the gills at the time? And you weren't there when he woke up. All your coworkers would need to do if he remembered is say he must have been mistaken and confused you with the green-haired quirkless doctor who works night shifts. Shoto wouldn't even think to question it, especially since you clearly have a quirk. Izuku's eyes widened. He had been so panicked about his imminent expulsion that the idea had never occurred to him. You're right. I'll text Obi-san to confirm, but he would have expelled me by now if he knew, wouldn't he? He would have tried, Recovery Girl agreed. But you needn't have worried. If he ever did that, I'd stop him. Can't let him expel my only apprentice, can I? I'm not your apprentice yet, Chio-sensei. Izuku blushed shyly. Recovery Girl just laughed. You will be after your exam this morning. I may not pass. Child, you have more medical know-how than many licensed doctors. You will pass just fine. Anyways, this is my car. Hop in the passenger seat. I'll need you to read the directions to the testing center. Izuku should have been surprised by the 21st century vintage Pepto-Bismol pink Volkswagen Beetle, but somehow he wasn't. Excuse me, Izuku mumbled nervously. I'm here to take the preliminary exam for medical practitioners. Midoriya Izuku, I suppose. The tired blond man at the desk grumbled. What a pain. I'm too tired for this. ID, please. Izuku fumbled as he rushed to hand it over. Fine. Please go to testing room 2. The man yawned widely. Leave all your things here except a scientific calculator and 2 number 2 pencils. Yes, sir. Izuku drew the supplies from his backpack and passed the yellow bag over to Recovery Girl. I'll see you when you're done, Sonny. Good luck. She smiled as the tired man led Izuku to the testing room. Ugh, you ready? The man asked after Izuku sat down at an empty desk. Izuku nodded. The man pulled a sheet of paper from a folder and began to read in a deadpan monotone. Good morning. As you know, you are here to take the National Preliminary Exam for Medical Practitioners. Congratulations on taking this important step toward your career goals. My name is Mara Yokimiru, and I will be your proctor today. Mara let out another large yawn. Izuku winced. The man couldn't have sounded less enthused if he had tried. Before we begin the test, I'm going to read some instructions. This should take about 20 minutes. Please listen carefully and raise your hand if you have any questions. Remember, my role is to make sure you have the best opportunity to demonstrate your skills and knowledge. If you are using printed directions, please open the booklet I am about to hand you and follow along as I give instructions. Mara tossed Izuku a thick packet. Thank you. Mara simply grunted in response. The following are forbidden and will result in your dismissal from the testing site. Giving or receiving help of any kind, looking through the test book before the time starts, looking at sections other than the one we are currently on, marking or changing answers after a time is called, attempting to remove test materials from the testing room, possessing a mobile phone or any other unauthorized testing aid either during testing or during breaks, possessing an answer key or sharing answers with anyone during or after the test, attempting to take the test from someone else, eating or drinking without an approved accommodation to do so, causing a disturbance, and failing to follow testing procedures. Basically, don't cheat, Mara concluded tiredly. Izuku nodded, firmly in response. These policies help to make sure your testing experience today is fair and that you can focus on your own test without distractions. By this time, you should have turned in all phones and any other electronic devices. If you still have an electronic device of any kind, including a smartwatch or fitness tracker, please disable any alarms, power it off, and turn it in to me now. It will be returned to you at the end of the test. I don't have anything. Izuku bared his wrist for the proctor. Right. From this point on, I will dismiss you if I see a phone, smartwatch, or other electronic device. Thank you for paying attention to these instructions. I will take a moment now to make sure you are using an acceptable calculator. You may not share or exchange calculators at any time. Here. Izuku handed his calculator over to the proctor. I am way too tired for this. I haven't slept in a week, Mara complained. This is fine. Here's the answer sheet you will be using on the test. Thank you. Your answer sheet should have a label and/or printed and bubbled information on it. Please check that you have the correct answer sheet by making sure it shows your correct legal name and date of birth. Raise your hand if you have the wrong answer sheet, or if you find any errors on the label. It's correct, Mara-san, Izuku replied after quickly checking his sheet over. I will now distribute your textbooks. Do not open them until I tell you to. Mara handed a book to Izuku. Now read the back cover. It has important information about marking answers and scoring. When you are finished reading, please look up. Izuku turned the booklet over and scanned the instructions. It seemed to be a pretty simple multiple-choice test with a bubble answer sheet. Izuku had taken plenty like it before. Are there any questions about what you just read? Izuku shook his head. You will begin the test in a few minutes after I read the final instructions. During testing, keep your answer sheet and test book flat on the desk. If you find something wrong with your answer sheet or test book, such as a missing page, raise your hand. Answer sheets and test books must never be removed from the testing room. You can only work on one section of the test at a time. You are not allowed to move to the next section until you are instructed to do so. Once the test has ended, please stay seated and don't leave the room until I dismiss you. If you have any questions, you may ask them now. I don't have any questions. Very well. The test is broken into 6 half-hour multiple-choice sections with 30 questions each. First half of the exam will cover your knowledge of science. Section 1 will cover anatomy, behavioral sciences, biochemistry, biophysics, microbiology, pathology, pharmacology, and physiology. Section 2 will cover interdisciplinary sciences, including genetics, quirk science, aging, immunology, nutrition, and molecular and cell biology. Section 3 will cover epidemiology, medical ethics, and law. The second half of the exam will test your clinical knowledge. Content areas may include internal medicine, obstetrics and gynecology, pediatrics, preventative medicine, psychiatry, surgery, and other areas relevant to provision of care under supervision. Do you have any questions? No, sir, Izuku responded. Great. I'm going to take a quick nap. Don't cheat. I'll know even if I'm sleeping. You may begin. Izuku hurriedly flipped over his exam book. A 28-year-old man with a minor telekinesis quirk comes to the office because of a 1-year history of pain with urination that has increased in severity during the past month. He also has had episodes of blood in his urine during the past 5 years. He lived in sub-Saharan Africa until he came to Japan 6 months ago for graduate school. Temperature is 38 degrees Celsius, pulse is 80 per minute, respirations are 16 per minute, and blood pressure is 110/84. Physical examination shows suprapubic tenderness. Imaging studies show bilateral hydroureter and hydronephrosis and foci of calcification in the region of the bladder. A biopsy specimen of the bladder shows marked chronic inflammation with fibrosis and scattered granulomas. Which of the following best explains the biopsy findings? A. Exposure to a chemical toxin. B. Interstitial cystitis. C. Malakoplakia. D. Schistosomiasis. E. Vesicoureteral reflux. The patient definitely had an infection. The white blood cell count was off the charts. The hemoglobin and hematocrit was low, but not alarmingly slow. The creatinine was scarily high, indicating kidney failure. The patient also had a fever. The fever suggested that a chemical toxin was unlikely. Interstitial cystitis, a chronic bladder condition, likewise didn't usually cause a fever and is more common in women. Additionally, it couldn't explain the creatinine levels. And the patient hadn't reported frequent urination. Malakoplakia, a rare inflammatory condition, couldn't be diagnosed with the available information. The labs showed evidence of renal failure, so it could be a possibility, but it usually occurs in older individuals, making it unlikely. Additionally, the patient wasn't immunodeficient, which is the biggest risk factor for malakoplakia. Vesicouretal reflux is usually a childhood disease and wouldn't explain bloody urine. The bladder wall calcification was unusual, and combined with the history of traveling to Africa, probably implied schistosomiasis, a parasitic disease caused by bloodworms. Izuku quickly filled in the bubble for D. He could do this. Izuku could not do this. The exam had been brutal, and while Izuku was confident he got his answers correct, he hadn't been able to finish a single section in time. Now he was beyond exhausted and about to be thrown into the provisional hero licensing exam. "How did it go?" Recover Girl asked, sitting on a bench outside the exam hall, handing Izuku half a sandwich and a sports drink. "My brain is melting out my ears," Izuku complained, "and I wasn't able to finish a single section in the allotted time." "So you passed?" "Probably," Izuku sighed, pausing to scarf down his food. "The real challenge is passing the hero licensing exam, given how tired and brain-dead I am." "Drink and have some of your gummies," Recover Girl commanded. Izuku complied and took a long sip. "You still have half an hour before your next exam, and your classmates won't be here for another 15 minutes. You even have time for a quick cat nap." "That sounds good," Izuku agreed tiredly, positioning his backpack to serve as a makeshift pillow. "Wake me up when it's time." "Of course, dearie." Izuku was barely able to fall into a light sleep when he was woken by a ruckus noise. "All right! I can't wait to be a heroic chicken." "What?" "Let's call out the usual. Guys, on my mark. Plus... Ultra!" Wait, Izuku didn't know that voice. "You know, it's pretty rude to barge in on other people's huddles like that, Inasa." "Pardon me, I am... Bang. So, bang. Extremely sorry." Izuku groaned and cracked open one eye. "What?" "Hush, dearie. Everything's fine," Recover Girl soothed. "Try to get a few more minutes of sleep." Izuku squinted and shut his eyes again. "Who is this guy? I do not trust his enthusiasm," Kaminari cried out. "Hey, look at their uniforms," Jiro added. "They're from that famous school on the other side of Japan." "UA in the east, Shiketsu in the west. And that was Kachan." Izuku sighed. While there went his last hope of sleep, Izuku sat up tiredly. The voices he didn't know must belong to students from Shiketsu High. "I wanted to say it just once, plus ultra. See, I really love UA High School. I'm extremely honored to compete against such incredible students. I'm looking forward to it." Well, that was earnest. Izuku kind of liked the guy. "What?" a girl with long brown hair asked. "Let's go," replied a purple-haired boy. "Inasa Yaroshi," Aizawa deadpanned, and now that was a surprise. "Do you know that guy, Mr. Aizawa?" Hagakure questioned. "Indeed. He's strong." The class gasped in unison. Aizawa never exaggerated. A compliment like that from him was a big deal. "He's the same year as you all, and received top score for students admitted through recommendations, but for some unknown reason he turned down his acceptance to UA and went to Shiketsu." Now Izuku was wide awake. If he had the top score for recommendations, it meant that he had beaten Shoto in the exam. It was unlikely that anyone in 1A could take him head-on. And they were competitors in this exam. It was very likely they would meet as enemies on the field. What could his quirk be? How could Izuku counteract him? "Great to meet you, UA students. Please excuse me." "Hold on. Is anyone else here confused?" Sarah wondered aloud. "This guy says he loves our school, but he turned down his chance to enroll when it was offered?" "Yeah," Mina agreed. "What a weirdo." "Maybe, but he's the real deal," Aizawa warned, and that was more terrifying than anything else Izuku had heard about him. Aizawa was just full of praise for the guy. "Keep an eye on him." Izuku walked over to his classmates. "Hey, guys." "Deku-kun, where have you been? Aizawa-sensei wouldn't say anything." Uraraka launched herself at him. "Sorry," Izuku rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. "Something personal came up that I had to take care of this morning, so Recovery Girl Sensei brought me here separately." Uraraka opened her mouth to ask another question, but was interrupted by a chipper voice. "Eraser?" Aizawa flinched hard, startling the class. Whatever could make their teacher look so scared must be terrifying. "I'd know that scowl anywhere. I saw you on TV at the sports festival, but it's been a while since we were this close in person." Aizawa's eyes started to twitch. "Wow. I've never seen someone get a reaction out of Aizawa-sensei like that before," Uraraka whispered. Izuku flashed back to an image of His drug teacher, crying about his cute students and cats, still eliciting this type of emotional response from their teacher while he was sober was impressive. "Let's get married." "No." The class broke out into a cacophony of gasps and squeals. Wait, wasn't Aizawa-sensei married to Mike-sensei? "Ha! You're a real laugh riot, buddy." The woman doubled over in laughter. "As usual, your impossible joke." "Oh, that's Miss Joke the Smile Hero," Izuku mumbled. Still, Izuku didn't think that the marriage joke was funny, especially since it clearly made Aizawa-sensei so uncomfortable. "Come on, imagine it," Joke continued. "If I was your wife, you'd have a life full of constant laughter." "That sounds like an actual nightmare." Aizawa deadpanned. Joke started laughing again. "It seems like you two are close," Sue observed. "Our agencies were near each other. As young heroes striving to make a difference in the world, a mutual love bloomed." "No, it didn't." "I do miss your quick retorts," Joke shot finger guns. "You're my favorite person to tease, future husband." "So, Joke, if you're here, then that must mean—" "That's right. Over here, everyone." A group of teens approached from behind her. "This is UA." "Oh, wow. It really is Class A," a boy with black eyes and spiky hair replied. "It's so amazing," the blonde girl next to him squealed. "I've seen them on TV before." Shit. Izuku had forgotten about the sports festival. This was going to put them at a serious disadvantage in the exam. "Second years from Ketsubutsu Academy," Joke introduced. "This is Class 2. They're my students." The boy who spoke early grabbed Izuku's hands. "Hey, I'm Shindo. Seems like UA's had a lot of trouble this year. Must have been tough." Izuku's eyes narrowed. Shindo's pulse, which he could feel against his wrist, was rapid, quicker than his speech. His hands were clammy and his eyes dilated. He was either extremely nervous or lying. Maybe he had a touch-based quirk and was tagging him. "What are you trying to say?" Izuku responded cautiously. "But even so, you've worked hard to become such great heroes, despite those hardships." Shindo moved to Kaminari and Jiro, touching both of their hands. "It's wonderful. Hearts full of fortitude." Well, that was a load of baloney. This guy was practically sparkling, he was so fake. "I believe that's what every hero in the world needs to have. And Bakugo—" Oh no, this was not going to end well. "It must have been hard for you, what with that whole kidnapping incident." "Huh?" "You have an especially strong will, don't you? Today I'm going to do my best to learn from you. I really hope you don't mind." Bakugo slapped Shindo's hand away. "Stop pretending. What you say doesn't match the look in your eyes." "Hey, man, don't be so rude. Sorry, he's just like that," Kirishima shouted. Izuku sighed, so Bakugo saw it too, but it looked like the rest of 1A was swept up by Shindo's act. "It's fine. Proves how tough his heart is." "Hey, Todoroki," the blonde girl called. "Can I have your autograph? You were so cool at the sports festival." Seriously?" A boy with long dark hair replied. "Stop fangirling." "Hey, get your costumes and head to orientation. There's no time to waste," Aizawa commanded. "Yes, sir," the class responded. Izuku rushed back over to Recovery Girl. "Thanks for everything, Chiyo-sensei." Izuku bowed. "I'm happy to help, dear. Now make sure you take a couple of gummies before the start of your exam. You need the energy." "Yes, ma'am." "I'll be off then, Sonny. Good luck. Don't do anything too reckless." "No promises." Izuku grinned cheekily and joined the rest of his class. The grin quickly slid off of his face. His classmates seemed to have inflated heads after the praise from the other two academies. "Guys, there's no room for your egos in this exam," Izuku scolded. "It doesn't matter if you're famous or not. Those other classes will be our enemies during the exam. Stay on guard. You are not better than the second years because you were on TV once." "Harsh, dude," Kirishima whistled. "Yeah, way to rain on our parade," Kaminari complained. "Let us enjoy it for once." "The nerd's right," Bakugo scoffed. "It'll be your funeral." "Let's go, guys. We're going to be late," Yaoyorozu called out. The class soon found themselves in a packed auditorium. There were way more examinees than Izuku had been anticipating. This was going to be tough. Mera was hunched over the stage, looking even more tired than he had been that morning. Okay then, let's do this exam thing. I'm from, the Hero Public Safety Commission. Name's Mera. My circadian rhythm is so screwed up." Izuku chuckled quietly. Looks like Mera had unsuccessfully tried to nap too. "Oh man, I've been swamped lately, and I haven't gotten any rest." Mera let out a large yawn. We're too short-staffed. I'm so tired. Is he okay? Uraraka asked softly. He's just like that, Izuku smiled wryly. He could probably use a few days of vacation, but what can you do? You know him? Huh? Oh, yeah, we've met before. With that confession, Mara slapped his face. I'll begin orientation. So about the content of this license thing. Basically, 1,540 examinees compete in a free-for-all exercise, or whatever we're calling it this year. Seriously? That's not a lot of info, Zero complained. Just give him a minute, Bakugo growled. See, we've got a lot of pros around, and since Stain was arrested, many people have expressed doubts about the status of heroes in society. But when you really think about it, getting paid makes sense. If you're going to risk your life to save someone, why shouldn't you ask for a reward, huh? That's just the way the world works. Well, that wasn't wrong, but it was certainly an uncomfortable way of putting it. God, I could use a coffee. Anyway, whether they're in it for compensation or out of our sense of duty, we've got too many heroes working together in the streets these days to keep villains at bay. Honestly, the time between when an incident begins and when it's resolved is ridiculously short. You are all here trying to receive your provisional licenses, so you'll be swept up in this tiresome mess yourselves pretty soon. Those of you who don't have the speed, frankly, just won't cut it, which is why that's what you'll be tested on. A large number 100 appeared on the screen behind Mara. The first 100 students to fulfill the requirements will pass today. There are over 1,500 people taking this test, Yaoyorozu exclaimed. I thought they said about half of us would be passing. This means it's actually less than 10% who'll get a license, Sue added. Oh man, I'm getting way more nervous. Well, the world can be pretty crappy, Mara interrupted the murmurs of the crowd. I suppose I should say something about luck. So anyway, here are the basic rules. The examinee will put 3 of these targets. Mara held up a circular disc. On his or her body. They can go anywhere you want as long as it's an exposed area, so no soles of the feet or armpits. Each of you will also have 6 of these balls. The targets are programmed to light up whenever they've been touched by the ball. If all 3 targets light up, you're out. Oh, and the person who lights up your 3rd target will get credit for your defeat. You get through this round by taking down 2 people. Got it? Good. Izuku frowned. This was going to be difficult. They were given exactly enough balls to pass. Examinees would probably need to steal balls and kills from each other. Speed would be key. He could place one of the targets on his neck protector. It's an area that he would reflexively defend. Similarly, Izuku could place one on his forehead and the final target on his chest, which he could easily guard, with his arms while fighting with kicks. Better to not have any targets on his back. What else? I guess we will start passing out the targets and balls. Then you'll have a few minutes to get situated after we open. Open? The walls and ceiling of the auditorium suddenly pulled apart to reveal a large arena, with a mock city and various terrains. It was more excessive than anything at UA, which was saying quite a lot. I'm sure each of you has various terrains that you like or want to avoid. Use your quirks well and do your best. Or not. Whatever. The arena was large, but there were too many examinees. Stealth would be difficult. This is so unnecessary. Yes, I know. Makes for a great reveal, doesn't it? And for what? Mara slapped his face again. So much sleep lost for this. Hopefully some of these kids are fast and we can get this over with. Until then, I'm going to rest my eyes. Class 1A started running into the arena. There was no doubt in Izuku's mind that this was quickly going to become a group fight, class against class. Everyone, stay close together. We'll fight them as a group, Izuku shouted. Yeah! Got it. Yeah, right. Bakugo sneered, walking away. This isn't a field trip. Idiot! Wait up! Kirishima rushed after him. Kachan! Izuku shouted. Kirishima! I'm going on my own, too, Todoroki declared. It's hard for me to use my power safely when a big group's around. Todoroki! There's no time. Let's go. Right. I don't think it's a good idea for them to go off on their own, though. Think about it. Everyone already knows our quirks. They did research? Uraraka asked. I see, Ida replied. The sports festival. The other schools have probably figured out the same way to win that I have. This is going to end up being a battle between schools. With that in mind, First, it's likely they'll gang up against quirks they know. Does that mean... Don't tell me. An alarm suddenly blared out. The first test will now begin. Out of nowhere, a dozen people suddenly sprung out to attack 1A. Shit, I knew it, Izuku cursed. I saw you on TV, Shindo smirked. That power of yours also destroys your body. Can't say I'm above taking advantage of that. The ball suddenly started flying. Izuku dodged as he ran closer. As he approached, he launched into a kick, shooting out a ball while blowing those coming towards him in a gust of wind. The battle had begun in earnest. All right, listeners, this concludes Chapter 10 of Deku D.O. Chapter 11 will be up next. Hope you all are still enjoying, and as always, thank you so much for listening.